Question: why is it argued that consciousness is not a product of the body? Why is it argued that it is not generated by the brain? Answer: your question is central to one of the biggest debates in science and philosophy. Is consciousness produced by the brain, or is the brain merely a receiver for a pre-existing non-local consciousness? If consciousness is a product of the body, then it should be entirely dependent on brain activity, neural networks, and biochemical processes. However, multiple scientific, quantum, and experiential factors suggest that consciousness exists independently of the brain, rather than being purely generated by it. Let's break this down using scientific, electromagnetic, and quantum perspectives. 1. The brain as a generator versus the brain as a receiver. There are two competing models. Materialist model, brain-generated consciousness. Consciousness emerges from neurons, synapses, and electrochemical reactions in the brain. If you damage the brain, consciousness should be permanently altered or lost. When the body dies, consciousness should cease to exist. Non-local model. Brain as a receiver of consciousness. Consciousness exists outside of the brain, and the brain simply tunes into it, like a radio. Brain damage can block access to memories, but consciousness itself remains intact beyond the body. Near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, and quantum mechanics suggest consciousness is fundamental to reality. Key question: if the brain creates consciousness, why do some people experience full awareness even when brain activity ceases, such as in near-death experiences? 2. Quantum science and consciousness. If the brain produced consciousness, it should be possible to localize consciousness in the brain. However, quantum mechanics suggests consciousness is non-local, meaning it exists outside of space-time. A. The observer effect. Consciousness affects reality. The famous double-slit experiment shows that particles behave differently when observed. This means that the act of conscious observation collapses quantum probabilities into a single outcome. If consciousness were purely brain-generated, why would it have an effect on the behavior of fundamental particles? What this means: consciousness is not just a byproduct of the brain. It plays a fundamental role in shaping reality itself. B. Quantum entanglement, non-local awareness. Quantum entanglement shows that two particles can be instantly connected across vast distances. If consciousness is just brain activity, it should not be able to interact with reality in a way that defies space-time. However, telepathy, near-death experiences, and remote viewing suggest that consciousness can operate beyond the brain's physical location. What this means: if consciousness were purely material, it should be confined to the brain. But quantum physics suggests that awareness can exist beyond the brain, and even beyond space-time. C. Near-death experiences and brain death cases. If consciousness were just a product of brain activity, then when the brain shuts down, consciousness should also cease. However, thousands of people report full awareness during clinical death, even when EEG scans show zero brain activity. Many near-death experiencers recall accurate details about their surroundings while they were brain-dead. Some cases involve people blind from birth describing visual details for the first time during NDEs. What this means: consciousness appears to persist even when brain activity is completely gone, suggesting that it is not created by the brain, but rather received by it. 3. How does consciousness feel? Experiences like hunger, pain, orgasm. If consciousness exists independently of the brain, then how does it experience physical sensations like hunger, pain, or pleasure? Step 1. Physical body detects stimuli. The nervous system senses pain, hunger, heat, pleasure, etc. These signals are sent as electromagnetic impulses to the brain. Step 2. Brain processes the signals. The brain interprets the signals using neural networks and chemical releases, dopamine, serotonin, etc. Step 3. Consciousness interprets the experience. Consciousness receives and interprets the brain signals, turning them into subjective experiences. This is why two people can experience pain or pleasure very differently. It's not just about the body, but also how consciousness perceives the sensation. What this means: The brain is like a translator between the body, physical world, and consciousness, non-physical awareness. This is why meditation, hypnosis, and trained mental focus can override pain and pleasure. Consciousness can adjust how it interprets bodily sensations. 4. What happens when the brain is damaged? If the brain creates consciousness, then brain damage should destroy self-awareness and memory permanently. However, this is not always the case. Case: hydrocephalus patients with little to no brain tissue. Some individuals with 90% of their brain missing still have full cognitive function. If consciousness were produced by the brain, these people shouldn't be able to think at all. This suggests that consciousness is not stored in the brain but accessed through it. Case: people with dementia regaining clarity before death. Many Alzheimer's patients suddenly become fully lucid moments before death. If their brain was permanently damaged, how could they suddenly regain memory and clarity? This suggests that consciousness is independent of the brain but is temporarily blocked by brain damage. What this means: the brain is like a radio receiver. If it gets damaged, the signal is distorted, but the consciousness signal itself remains intact. 5. Can a trained person leave the body and access consciousness directly? Yes, many traditions suggest that consciousness can temporarily separate from the body and operate independently. Lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences. OBEs. Some people report leaving their body and observing events from an external viewpoint. If consciousness were only inside the brain, how could they see or hear things from outside their body? Near-death experiences and astral projection. Some individuals report visiting other dimensions or seeing things from far distances while their physical body remains in place. Advanced meditation and certain brainwave states allow people to experience consciousness beyond the body. What this means: if properly trained, one can shift awareness out of the physical body and access consciousness directly. This supports the idea that the brain is not generating consciousness, it is just anchoring it to the body. Final answer: why is consciousness not produced by the brain? Quantum experiments, observer effect, entanglement, suggest that consciousness affects reality and is not just brain-based. Near-death experiences and brain-death cases show full awareness even when the brain is inactive. Some individuals function normally despite missing large parts of their brain, challenging the idea that neurons generate self-awareness. Consciousness seems to exist beyond space-time, meaning the brain is a receiver rather than a generator. Trained individuals can access states of consciousness outside the body, suggesting it is independent of neural activity.